Greetings, Captain.
Greetings. Greetings and love.
Greetings and love on this gorgeous, sunny, spring, not summer yet, but I don't know what the fuck I am kind of day, and
we call it spring.
Yeah, we'll call it spring. Spring. And I've got to ask you, man, can you tell me what inspires you to keep raving after all these years?
Well, I mean, it's all a question of how you determine a rave, right? I mean, I like to party with adults, and we like to party until the morning, right?
Because that's what adults do,
yeah,
isn't it?
Exactly. I mean, in essence, we are still raving, but not with the traditional rave characteristics.
Yeah, it's kind of like being like a kid with perks.
Yeah. It's what inspires me to keep going is just the underground party scene in Toronto just keeps getting better and better, and the caliber of all of the people throwing parties keeps improving. The music coming out is just revolutionary, and so yeah, it's more fabulous than ever, the underground party scene in Toronto.
So, in your opinion, what's the main difference between raving in the 21st century versus the 90s?
Well, Toronto's got quite a sophisticated party scene. And I think the only place you're going to find real kind of theoretical old school raving is with at the underage parties. The biggest difference I would see is, I guess if we're just going to look at underground partying, because that's really what I've been doing, I guess we can call them raves as well. The biggest difference would be the musical diversity nowadays. Nowadays we're getting a lot more diverse broken beat music, a lot more diverse rooms. It used to just be that there was a techno room and maybe another techno room.
Yeah.
Right? Often we'd have a drum and bass room and a techno room, but now we're getting just a lot more variation. And as well, a lot of the producers are doing what I like to do at my parties, which is book different styles of music throughout the evening, but that flow nicely together as one piece. Right?
Which parties do you promote currently?
Currently, I promote the parties I throw, the Bay Skaters parties. We throw a couple parties each year, big and spectacular. Our next one will be in June. As well, I've been promoting the circular parties, which is a blending of epic party situation, graphics, visuals, the deco artists, as well as circus performances. They bring in top-notch music and epic circus performances. They're fabulous, but you couldn't really call them a rave because they usually end at like 4 a.m. But it's a pretty raging rave until then. Their parties are fabulous. I also have always enjoyed the Suma Collective's parties, Promise parties. I also promote for the Make It Funky events, which are really quite fabulous, and they bring in a lot of great talent.
So what encouraged you or led you to exploring the psy-trance aspect of raving?
What actually happened with psy-trance is my first introduction to the scene is I went to a New Year's event, and I was just quite blown away at how when the event ended, everybody in the venue worked together to get the place stripped and clean and get everybody gone right away.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized that they have a different scene, right? Like they're working together on the things rather than consumers of events. And my first time after partying with the trancers was quite interesting because the party we had went till 6 a.m. and like 14 of us go back to a beautiful like loft place to after party. And within 45 minutes, 8 of the 12 people are snuggled up and going to sleep. And I had no idea like why this is an after nap party. I didn't get it. And so we went out, we're still partying, we're out on the back porch, loving the sun. And come around 11 o'clock, they started waking up and coming back to join us. And they weren't planning on going anywhere, and that's why they'd taken a nap, because they weren't going to go home at noon. They were staying all day. And so they just partied a different, more family vibe.
Yeah.
Right? So, yeah, so it's the community entirely is what drew me into the trance scene. And I listened to some of the world's best trance DJs and get to hear some of the best world of trance available. And that really makes a difference. What all musics have crappy and fabulous demonstrations within their field. It all depends on the DJ.
So what were some of the best parties you'd experienced back in the day?
I'd have to say the rave at the Science Center in like 97, I think, just blew our minds. And when we got home, my friend lives right beside a Chinese community center, and it was some sort of Chinese celebration day. So we got home, and we come out on the rooftop or the balcony patio looking down, and they had like a 40-foot golden Chinese dragon with about 20, 25 people in it dancing around right in front of the house. It was just quite a magical event.
Oh man, that must have been a majorly trippy scene.
Yeah, it was quite trippy.
So would you say that rave culture has helped to define the person that you are today? I mean, look at you. You're just
I think,
raving on.
I think that, I mean, I consider myself more of a party enthusiast, and that's because I really enjoy having a good time, and where having a good time gets people at. I enjoy spending time with people where they're in that state of having a good time.
Yes.
Right? I would say I started throwing parties at the age of like 14. We opened our first club in Northern Ontario. I started throwing my first festivals in 97. So I've been in it since the very beginning. Like as soon as I could, I started throwing parties. Right? And now it got to a point in 2001 where the events we were throwing, it got to such a spectacular level that I went on hiatus because I decided we're not going to throw any parties unless they're big and fantastic and they're spectacular. And so now that's what we're doing with Bass Skaters. Throwing a couple parties a year and making it spectacular. And by spectacular, it's about taking it to the next level. Live drummers. At our 1-year anniversary, we had fireworks, a full-blown fire show. We're putting it in the best venues. We've been using St. Stephen's in the Fields Church in Kensington Market. We've got a rave that runs until half an hour before they start feeding the homeless. I've got a team strip down at church, clean it, and have it set so they can feed the homeless. And I'm down with the priest. I'm down with the people who run the church because we're throwing celebrations. I mean, it is raving, but really they're celebrations.
So, tell me, Captain, what were some of your favorite fashions from back in those days?
Back in those days, I'd have to say my favorites were Geek Boutique, Snug, and Luscious for the ladies. Those three bands.
Luscious.
Yeah, those three bands were crucial. I've seen a number of girls with old school Luscious overalls on lately, and been wowing over them until somebody told me that hers were a knockoff new remake of them, which was a little disappointing. So I liked having those old school wears still kicking. So I've got some old school Snugs here from, I don't know.
Oh yeah.
97-ish.
Those are
98, yeah.
hot, baby.
Yeah.
So, have you ever messed around with music production in the past?
Yeah, I made music in Northern Ontario aggressively from about 91, actually 1990. Is when we started actual production, and I produced there till about 96. While I was living there, I produced in the Sioux for 4 years, and then my studio moved to Toronto, and I would take road trips to Toronto and produce in Toronto till about 97. At which point I realized that my time, we had gotten everything connected so that something could have been released. But I realized that my time had not come yet. And so I went on hiatus from production. But now we're making music again. And you can see me perform at the next Bay Skater Party.
When's that coming up?
June 2nd.
And where?
The location is to be revealed at a later date, but it is going to blow your mind.
Oh, cool. Awesome. Well, thanks, Colin. It was a pleasure speaking with you and having you share your wonderful experiences with us.
Well, I'd also like to tell you that about what's happening on our West Coast, because I went to our West Coast this summer. I went to Base Coast, I went to Shambhala, I got to party in Vancouver, I got to see what they're doing. And the West Coast has an entirely different sound right now. And West Coast Canada has some phenomenal producers making an epic new wave of bass music. It's not dubstep, it's something way more fantastic and fabulous, something tribal, something that people need to start tuning into. So everybody start listening to your Vancouver, your West Coast producers from BC out there. They're making some really delicious crunk. And it's really important that your ears hear, because you got to hear the new music, and that's what keeps us going to the parties.
That's right. Support your local talent, folks. Awesome, dude.
All right, thank you.